Remember McLaren? While the world's been losing its mind over that new electric Ferrari, the new electric Jag, and whatever that AMG four-door is with too many taillights, things have been worryingly quiet at Britain's premier supercar maker. So stick around and I'll not only give you a fully in-depth tour of a new McLaren, the 788HS, but we'll also talk about what's been going on at McLaren and what's going to happen next. Don't worry, we're not going to pull up a McLaren business PowerPoint. This is still Top Gear. Coming up, I'll take you around this mini W1, check out the wilder Aero, the new panels, and the familiar interior. And can I just say a massive well done to anyone who knows what HS stands for. That puts you in a very elite club of car nerds because only 2 McLarens before this one have worn those letters, which stand for high sport. 10 years ago, McLaren's Special Ops division built 25 of these, the MSO HS. They stood apart from the 500 675 LTs, not just because they had more power and downforce, but because of how bespoke they were. Each HS was commissioned uniquely by McLaren's most faithful customers. Each was shot through with goodies like a new titanium exhaust, an active rear wing with adjustable settings, and 13 extra horsepower. MSO even moved the heater controls from the door into the touchscreen to save weight on buttons. Big mistake. In fact, McLaren said the inspiration for what's often called the 688HS was the amount of people that came knocking on their door saying, "I'd like a P1, but can you bin all that heavy hybrid battery stuff?" Hold that thought actually, because I'll come back to it. The first car in this fledgling family tree was the 12C High Sport, the final version of the MP412C before McLaren morphed it into the 650S. 5 were promised, but high demand meant 10 were made, and you can spot the recipe. Angrier bodywork, carbon fibre overload, and a power boost from 592 to 666 brake horsepower. But because a standard 750S is already a total rocket ship, the power gain for this car isn't quite that high. It's 788 metric horsepower, as you've obviously guessed from the name, so that's 38 more horsepower, maths fans, or if you like your horsepower old-fashioned and imperial, 777 bhp. This car will be your best chance yet to see a high sport in real life because it's going to be the most common, but not very common. They're going to build 100 of these coupes, and the price, well, now that's a mystery. McLaren aren't really releasing it because each one's going to be so bespoke, so tailored. Owners are going to pick very expensive options like this clear coat carbon body and these liveries. But they're saying the gap from a normal 750S price will be around the same as the premium you paid for a 765 LT over a 720S. So let's guesstimate over £300,000. Oh, and if you miss out on one of the 100 coupes, you could always try and get one of the 100 HS Spiders. You do lose out on the roof scoop, and this one's 48 kilograms heavier, but they do make quite a nice pair. But funny thing is, this is no faster than a 750S, not in a straight line. 0 to 62, 2.8 seconds, top speed, 1 mile an hour slower at 205 miles an hour. And that's because despite more power, the quest for downforce inevitably adds drag. So let's seek out those changes. So there's this new front splitter that's bespoke to the HS. These tusks, or fangs as McLaren calls them, they're more vertical than they were on the 765 LT to allow more cooling airflow into these radiators. And then on the corners, you'll notice there's no Flics, there's no Aero ramps here. McLaren would have liked to have done them, but getting those through pedestrian crash legislation is so tricky nowadays they'd have to be made of butter. They've also dug a hole in the bonnet here to create this S-Duct. You've seen something similar on the Ferrari 488 Pista and the F80, Basic principle is air is gulped in here, shot out almost vertically and over the top of the car, forcing the nose down and meaning you don't need those flicks. Now, obviously, putting that there has had some effect on your boot space, but if we open up the front bonnet, you'll see it's actually still astonishingly practical for a mid-engine car. No latch to worry about, and there's still easily space for a couple of helmets or your weekend bags. And lovely detail on this gorgeous carbon bonnet, they've inlaid the badge here under the carbon fibre lacquer. A little bit of token lightweighting, but a lovely, almost race car-like detail. Anyway, moving back down the side of the car, these McLaren swoosh-shaped louvers, we saw those on the 765 LT, but you didn't see these. New ultra-lightweight forged alloy wheels, not carbon. McLaren doesn't really go for that, unlike Ferrari and Koenigsegg. They prefer the performance and the reliability that you get from a good old-fashioned metal wheel, but I love that they've now gone to a centre lock hub like a McLaren F1, like a Porsche GT3 RS. And underneath those, these are the legendarily powerful brakes that came straight from the McLaren Senna. Sticky Pirelli Trofeo R tyres are bespoke to McLaren. These side skirts you did see on the 765 LT, although now it says 788HS instead. And down the side, you're thinking, yep, still nice and clean, no big air intake, but looks familiar, but this doesn't. The roof scoop is back, which I love because it puts me in mind of the daddy of roof scoop cars, the McLaren F1. Now, you could get a roof scoop as an option, I think, on the 765 LT, but you're going to get it as standard on the HS. And that's needed some complicated re-engineering under here because this is not just the show, it is a functional air intake. Not for engine induction, not how it breathes in, but just for cooling. And McLaren say they notice notably lower engine bay temperatures with this thing fitted. Now, that does mean, of course, you lose some of that legendary McLaren all-round visibility, but that is a worthwhile sacrifice to make. And so to the rear, to be greeted with this huge rear wing, okay, not huge by Senna standards, but still pretty sizable. McLaren only claims that downforce on the 788HS is around 10% more than a 765 LT, but it says that's measurable, provable downforce rather than some of the more optimistic claims that its rivals make. Say no more about that. But I should say that this is still an active wing. I know it looks like a fixed one, but it sits on hydraulic mounts that can flip it up when you jump on the brakes to act as an air brake. It'll also lie down and relax to give you low drag DRS mode. So it's feature packed as well as being an excuse to have lots of gloss carbon and livery on the back of your car. Also, we should get into this amazing quad pipe exhaust with these lovely perforated finishes on them. Reminds me of the Bugatti Chiron Sport actually, and the noise has apparently been retuned to be more extrovert. These McLarens with the twin-turbo V8 have never sounded musical, but with Lamborghini and Ferrari now committed to twin-turbo V8s as well, it's kind of no longer a weakness for McLaren. Getting back onto air management and aero, because this panel is no longer the air brake like it was on the 750S. It stays flat, it stays put. McLaren's been able to add these new vents and vanes here, so we have more hot air being exhausted from the twin-turbo engine bay. You get these new Le Mans-style aero spats on the rear three-quarter of the car to reduce drag, and the rear wheel arch cutout is bigger here to vent more turbulent air. And then look at this diffuser. This is the biggest diffuser we've ever seen on a McLaren 700 series car. And it's not just huge, it's got genuine Formula One technology in these slots that have been cut out of the vanes down here. McLaren insists none of this stuff is for show. It's all functional. There's even stuff you can't really spot, like a 5mm drop in ride height. So could the 788HS produce lap times that would make a W1 sweat? The mad thing is that a W1 has 481 more brake horsepower than this car. It has a whole BMW M2 engine in reserve. But the W1, being a hybrid, is heavier than this car, about 134 kilos heavier. McLaren's claimed dry weight for this is 1265 kilos, or about 12 kilos less than 750S. And that is impressive when you consider just how much extra wing and bodywork has been bolted onto it. Speaking of the W1, there's been a 21-month hiatus between that ultimate hybrid flagship being revealed and this HS. So why the delay? Well, take a seat inside and I'll try to explain. McLaren has been going through a merger. Who it's merged with, you'll have never heard of because they're a British-based startup called 47 that's been operating in what's called stealth mode for 3 or 4 years. They're a band of engineers and technicians who were working on an electrified family of luxury cars, but they wanted a globally recognised brand to launch under, and McLaren was in dire financial trouble. And this is where the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund enters our story, because they were basically bankrolling both of these companies. So they needed to help McLaren out, they needed to give 47 a springboard, so they've merged them together. And that's why things are about to look very different for Woking's premier car maker. Because let's be honest, the problems with McLaren have been repeating themselves for a while. The cars are stunning to drive, but build quality and reliability has been a consistent complaint. Depreciation is eye-watering. And that's all linked to the grumbles McLaren's cars are fundamentally too similar. Mid-engined, twin-turbo V8s with flappy paddle gearboxes, rear-wheel drive, and 2 seats in a carbon tub. Now that's a great recipe for a supercar, but where's the diversity you get from Ferrari, Porsche, or even Aston Martin these days? I mean, look inside the 788HS. It's a spaceship. It feels purposeful and yet modern. The driving position is absolutely perfect. These seats out of the Senna remain about the most extreme chairs you'll find in any car, and there's lashings of carbon fibre and Alcantara everywhere. But it's all pretty much the same lashings and the same spaceship that you got in a 720S 9 years ago. And in the supercar world, 9 years is 3 centuries. I mean, in the 20 or so months between McLaren unveiling this car and the W1, Ferrari has revealed the 296 Speciale, the Amalfi, the F80, the 849 Testarossa, and the Luce. That's 5 cars. That's about half the cars it makes, while McLaren's been dormant. Meanwhile, McLaren had its CEO, ex-Ferrari tech boss Michael Leiters, poached by Porsche, which has its own crisis to manage. The new McLaren head honcho is Nick Collins, an executive who's done time at Ford and Jaguar Land Rover, where he masterminded the latest Range Rover Sport, and wildly successful Defender lineup. So he is a guy who knows how to make a family of cars that print money. Sadly, things have been really fraught at McLaren. We should never forget that while we've been starved of new supercars to get excited about, real people have lost their jobs. That being said, hopefully now the company's iconic headquarters, the MTC, has been safeguarded, the scary debts have been paid, and £1.5 billion of investment has flooded in to hopefully kickstart McLaren's world domination era. The question is, what will that look like? The 788HS starts the McLaren comeback, but where the company goes from here, well, we're likely to see a concept car of some description later this year and something with 4 doors, probably SUV shapes. I know I don't like it any more than you, but can't be any worse than the Ferrari Luce, can it? Also, McLaren could start to break some of its self-enforced rules at last. I mean, what about a car with the engine in the front, like a Dedici Cilindri Vanquish rival? What about an MSO manual gearbox conversion? This could be the final ever non-hybrid McLaren. So what you can know for sure is that the 788 is McLaren's newest car, but it's also the end of an era. Thanks for watching.